Hi, Nick. It's fantastic to see you. Thank you so much for doing this interview. How are you?
Hi, Helen. Yeah, my pleasure. I'm very well, thank you very much. Yeah, I've survived the last 18 months, as have we all, well, most of us. Yeah.
How's it
Um,
been for you then? How's lockdown been?
it's but to be honest, the first couple of months, I kind of thought, well, this is kind of, I don't have to be anywhere. I don't have to do anything. This is kind of neat. I can just enjoy being at home, mowing the lawn, taking the dogs for a walk. But that got quite boring quite quick, I must admit. Um, So yeah, so it's been a struggle. I think the worst, obviously, December and January were a real struggle for everybody. I think January, February, March, and even coming out of it's been quite frustrating because I've had several gigs that it's going to happen, it's going to happen, it's not going to happen,
Yeah.
and so it's been a bit like that. But yeah, I'm very lucky where we live. And my personal circumstances. I think somebody said we're all in the same boat, but then somebody else said, well, it's not the same. We're all in different boats in the same storm, which is kind of
Because
more
it's
accurate.
been really it's well documented, isn't it? It's been really tough for a lot of musicians, a lot of artists, a lot of people that work in live music.
Yeah, no, it has. I mean, as I say, I'm lucky. I've got my old songs to kind of keep sort of bread on the table and stuff, which is really fortunate for me. But there's loads of my peers and certainly loads of my crew and band and all the and people that are involved in behind the scenes in putting festivals together and all that kind of stuff have really been struggling, and that's not been easy to watch.
Had you been Prime Minister then, how would you have dealt with it differently? What would you have put on for guidance?
That's,
Is that
Fortunately, nobody would be stupid enough to make me
well?
prime minister. But but I yeah, well, it's a kind of a shame they didn't seem to want to do anything for the arts, which is a bit of a problem. I mean, it's easy to say, well, if I was prime minister, I would have done this. It's a bit like saying if you were England football manager, you would have done, would have bought Grealish on a bit earlier. But no, yeah, it's the fact that there was no help whatsoever for a good proportion of the people in this business. Which you got some of the big sort of iconic theatres and stuff got some money and got a little bit of help, but the ground roots people that make it all work, they've had to seek alternative employment or go under totally. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's been really hard. It's been really hard watching it and seeing the build up to events and then seeing them cancelled. But
Mhm.
this weekend is going to be the big one, and it's even more special for you, isn't it? Because you're doing a kind of Phil Collins.
Yeah, as I said on Twitter, yeah, I'm doing two gigs in one afternoon, and like Phil Collins, only it's not London and Philadelphia, it's Shrewsbury and Macclesfield, which
Well, what's the distance between the two? I've not checked it out. It must be relatively close then.
it's about an hour and a half, I think, and I'm on in the afternoon at Let's Rock, and that's in Shrewsbury, and that's at about 2:30. So hopefully I'm going to be away by about 3:30, and I'm not on in every one till about 7:15, I think.
So how does that work? Because obviously you must get like properly pumped up to be on stage,
Yeah.
and you'll have to come down again, and then you've got to lift yourself up again. What about your voice? Does it suffer after you've been on stage? You're all sweaty. Do you have to shower again?
Oh well, that's too much information, I think.
Sorry, Nick.
Okay.
Okay, just
I'm,
just the basic practicalities then.
I'm looking at the weather for the weekend. I don't think any of us are going to be working up much of a sweat. I
Okay.
think might be a bit damp. Might need a towel in the car before when I sort of jump back in the car and go. But no, I mean, yeah, it's I will miss out. I mean, it's lovely. You wind yourself up, then you do the gig, and then there's that lovely period after the gig where you're just hanging out with people and stuff like that. I won't be able to do that on the first gig, obviously, because I need to get in my car and get away. But no, it's yeah, it's not a question of having to get yourself up for a gig, because once you walk on stage and there's that big sea of hopefully smiling faces, then you and possibly umbrellas, um, you will, it lifts you again, and you don't have any problems sort of delivering. And I'm very lucky with my voice. I use in-ear monitors, and I have done for a long time, so I don't sing loud, and I kind of yeah, I managed to look after my voice, so that's I'm very lucky in that respect.
I was going to ask you about that actually. So during lockdown, obviously there was a few online things that I saw you doing, but have you had to
Yeah,
kind of keep? I'm a former athlete, so I would have to keep, I'm
yeah.
used to training and things like that. Do you have to keep your voice trained, like muscles trained or whatever?
Well, I haven't, but it is. You're right. It's a muscle. It's all everything around the larynx and the voice box and stuff. It's there's muscles involved. There's your diaphragm, which you're supposed to use if you're singing properly, and there's all sorts of things that you're supposed to do. I did very little of it. So when it came to yeah, getting back on the horse again, I was I was a bit nervous. In fact, I had a rehearsal for Rewind yesterday, and I hadn't really sung with the band. I mean, I'd had a rehearsal with my band, but I hadn't really sung much because the PA wasn't up to much in the rehearsal studio. So I just kind of yesterday was the first time I gave it some welly with my voice, and I thought I was a bit nervous that it wouldn't be there, but it was. So thank goodness.
Thankfully. I want to ask you a little bit about your home life because I know that you've got a son, Theo. I think he's at a similar age to my eldest. Is he 10, 9, 10?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. He's 11. He's 11.
11, okay. So is he going into year six? Or he's just finished year six?
He's a year back. He's just finished year 5. So
Okay, yeah, same as my son.
he's,
So homeschooling, were you involved?
yeah. Well, I kind of was. Yeah. It was. He's not the most motivated of students. I mean, his school was very good, and in fact a bit too good because he had basically lessons all day, Zoom Teams lessons
Okay.
all day. So he had to
That's
be
fantastic. So I think we had one
It is
day.
fantastic, but the drawback is that I had to make sure he was sitting in front of a computer at the appointed time and paying some kind of attention. If the camera is on, he wasn't actually nodding off.
Did you learn anything, Nick?
Oh, I did. I learned a fair bit about the Romans and the Mary Rose when it sunk just off Plymouth. And yeah, a bunch of stuff actually, because I had to just kind of keep a general eye on the fact that he was doing what he was supposed to be doing. But then, of course, you find out when they all go back to school and you talk to the other parents. Actually, nobody did all the work. It was just,
Absolutely.
you were sort of panicking about him not getting things done, and actually, most
Some
of
people have done absolutely nothing.
yeah. But the school were great, and Theo, bless him, he did his best, and he it was a hard, especially the second lockdown. It was really hard. In fact, my wife at that point said, "Right, you're doing it. I can't deal with it." So yeah, I did quite a fair bit of the homeschooling.
Fantastic. I was really interested to see that or to read actually that your mum was an opera singer and your father played the flute, and that you obviously play a whole range of instruments: drums, bass guitar, keyboard. How come you didn't follow in your parents' footsteps, and or can you sing classical music?
No, in fact, there was this. I don't think if you remember a series of a few years ago of them getting pop stars to sing classical
Okay.
stuff on the telly, and I was approached for that, and I said, I can't do that. That's not me. I do love classical music. I do, I've got a fair collection of classical music and some old favourites I kind of always go back to when I'm feeling in a certain mood. But no, I think for one thing, when you're of a certain age, you just want to do the complete opposite of what your parents do, don't you? You just don't want to be your parents.
They didn't try to get you to play the flute either, then.
No, I did go through when I started at grammar school, I did pick up a violin, much to everybody's horror, because that really isn't an instrument you want to listen to someone learning. That's not.
What recorder?
Recorders are you get a decent note out of a recorder, but if when you can't even make one single pleasant noise with a violin, it must be pretty painful. So I did that for about 2 years, but then I lost interest because I used to fancy my violin teacher and she quit. So that was. These are the things that make the difference. Yeah, and then I just sort of picked the guitar up when I was about 13 or 14 and never looked back, really.
Does Theo play then?
Yeah, he loves his music, although he's just not very good at practicing anything. He's got a drum kit in his room.
You're not tempted to drag him out on stage? I see Sonia gets her daughter out sometimes, and
Yeah, and I don't think anybody's ready for that. He'd take over for a start. Even this is how you do it. He plays guitar, and he messes about on my home in my home studio and stuff, and he loves making just making noises in the studio. So yeah, I'm not kind of I'm just letting him take his own time and find his own way with it really. And at some point, hopefully, he'll go right. I really want to get stuck into this.
But I read that you quit your A levels halfway through when you were 17 to become, to pursue music. What would you do if Theo wanted to do the same?
It's difficult, isn't it? I can hardly say to him, you'll never make it because it's the chances of making it in this business of blah blah blah. Because I did, So I can't pull that one on him. It's a different business now, obviously. But I'd probably be like any other parent. I'd just like to know that he'd considered what he was doing and thought of all the angles and all the consequences and etc. etc. If he still wanted to do it, then yeah, I'd absolutely.
Okay, so I just want to tell you one thing that happened at Let's Rock a couple of years ago. We were right at the front, and Lily Gonzalez, is that how I pronounce her name?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think we're pronouncing her name. Yeah.
Yeah. She was on the side of the stage, and you were performing, and I know that she's a really good friend of yours, but it was just really funny because at one point, halfway through your set, she just whipped her top up, and we were in absolute hysterics. It was like the funniest thing ever, and you just kept trying to you were kind of laughing but trying to carry on playing, and all of us, I don't think she realised that we could see at the very, very front, but it was brilliant.
Yeah, there are the moments that you live for, really. Yeah, that's Lily's quite a character, as you can probably gather, and I love her to bits, really do.
Well, that was a magical moment, yes. I also want to talk to you about all the other artists that you've collaborated with and that you've written for, because I absolutely love Chesney. He knows I'm a massive fan. The one and only. Obviously, such an amazing song. Did you not kind of feel a little bit of I just wish I'd kept that and sang it myself?
No, not at all. I mean, because you've got to remember, it was. I wrote it in 1989, and I'd already stopped recording and touring. I decided I wasn't going to tour again, and blah blah blah. I'd already made that decision, and it was one of the first songs that I wrote after that point. So it was never supposed to be my song. And it was, and I met Ches, and I really loved him and liked what he was up to and stuff. So it wasn't a problem at all giving it to him. And I was involved in the recording.
Did you write it specifically for him, or you'd written it?
No, I didn't. No, it was just written and stuck on a shelf for a couple of years, and then literally they'd finished filming Buddy's song, and then Chesney's dad just walked into Warner Chappell Music one day, and I'd only walked into Warner Chappell Music about a week before that because I was changing publishers to have a chat with them there, and I don't think I'd even signed a publishing deal with Warner Chappell at that point. And a guy called Stuart Newton took the meeting and played him a bunch of my songs, and Chesney's dad went, "Oh, that one." As far as the film producers were concerned, and some of the people involved with the film, they were a bit put out that there was an external song coming in, and a lot of them didn't get it at all, and they kind of put up a bit of a fight. So it nearly wasn't in the movie at all. I mean, in fact, it's only in the movie. I think it appears in someone's headphones at one point. It's not part of the soundtrack itself, but
well, I love it when you sing it as well. And you'll probably, if you hear some crazy scream at the start and only play the first few notes, that'll probably be at the front of the stage. Okay. I do love it. But in your opinion, honestly, who sings it better, you or Ches?
Oh, that we sing it. I think we're very different with the way we approach it. But I think the thing is, it was quite faithful to my original demo because I made a demo of it, and Chesney kind of used a few of my inflections and everything. But that's his song. I can't. As far as anybody is concerned, that's you associate with the song with the person that had the hit with it, and he did all the hard work, and I just sat back and in my sofa, on my sofa, and watched it fly up the charts,
and took all the money.
fantastic. Took all the credit and all the money, the glory.
This weekend then, so we've got Rewind coming this weekend. We've got Rewind again in 2 weeks' time. This weekend I'm doing the interviews backstage, but in 2 weeks' time I'll be in the crowd. It's my birthday. I'll be right at the front, getting very excited. Give me 3 reasons why anybody watching this that hasn't bought a ticket yet should buy a ticket for Rewind.
Oh my God, 3 reasons. Well, just it's such a great festival. It's been going, I don't know how long it's been going. It's been going for about since 2010, something like that. I don't know when the first ones were, maybe even a bit before that. But it's just it's so well organised. And it's great out front and backstage as well. I mean, to be honest, I've never been to a festival unless I've been backstage. But if it's one festival,
you've never actually been in the crowd.
No, I've never been to a festival. So, but if there was one I would go to, it would be Rewind, because it's such a friendly crowd, and there's so much to do. There's the fun fair, there's all the food. Get to the Saturday night and everybody's way up for it, and then it's still going on the Sunday night. It's just amazing. So I don't know if there were 3 reasons there, but just if you haven't been, you've got to experience once in your life, I think.
Oh, what a fantastic answer! I can't wait to see you singing. I presume you'll be singing One and Only as well there.
I might. I'm not. I'm not associated with that many hits that I can afford not to do one.
Oh, thanks a million, Nick. It's so lovely to speak to you, and I'll look forward to seeing you at Rewind this weekend and in a couple of weekends' time. Bye.
Great. Thanks, Helen. Bye bye.